still a firm believer on finding out how people learn.
I had a lot of fear. I can't believe you did this to me. And I'm like, wait a minute. What did I do?
Hey, it's Melissa.
Got away from you. But we have the opportunity to own that. And that can change absolutely everything for our lives.
Welcome to Leadership Live, Season 5. Hello, everyone. I hope that you are doing amazing this evening or today or this afternoon, whenever you're watching this. I hope you're feeling fabulous at whatever time it is. Welcome to Leadership Live with Dr. Renita and friends. And for those of you all who don't know, I am Dr. Renita. Hey, how you doing? I am doing wonderful. Once again, hope that you are as well. And for you all like, who is Dr. Renita? I'm so glad that you asked. I am a leadership strategist, which simply means that I love to work with growing and aspiring leaders to become more authentic in their leadership, to empower their followership, and at the end of the day, have a greater impact on the world. I do that through coaching. I am a speaker. I am a workshop facilitator. I also host events. I love hosting events. We have a good old time. Yes, we do. But I am also an author. If you look up there, you see right there? All those things right there, I authored those. But my first book was Stepmom, Trials, Tribulations, and Triumphs. Why? Because I am married. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. And I tell people all the time, I own 2 children and I birthed 2 children. That's because my boys, I got them through marriage. My beautiful, amazing, fabulous husband was a single father and he had 2 boys. And what? They're mine. They belong to me. They choose to love me and they belong to me. Those are my boys. But then there were 2 more that came later. They're my girls. And I birthed them, so they surely mine. They don't have a choice. Look, we locked in, twin. But our journey, our adventure to becoming a family was a story, honey. I followed that up with While You Were Sleeping, the Perfect Children of All Ages book, because my favorite time with my children is when they're sleeping. It is something precious about a sleeping baby, no matter how much they got on your nerves before they fell asleep. And sometimes they were wilding out and then it fell out, and then you remember why you love them again. Then later, I followed that up with The Case of the Unlikely Leader, The Real Cost to Be a Boss. It's all about soft skills making a hard impact in the world. And I know y'all are like, that's only 3 books, but the reality is that Stepmom has 2 editions. Lead Like You magazine, editor-in-chief and chief writer for Lead Like You magazine. It was a passion project. It is a passion project, and it's coming back in 2025, so be ready. I am also the founder of The Refining Life, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide you with experiences to have your mindset shifted so that you can lead a more positive and productive life. I'm a performer. I've been announcing that lately because I haven't done it as much. And I love performing on stages, dancing, singing, acting, all the things. And maybe one day you'll see me on the smaller big screen. I'm going to speak that thing into existence. And right now I am also writing again. I am working on a new book. I outed myself some lives ago. So I will remind you that Village Minded. I am writing that wonderful book and I'm excited to bring it to you. But today is Leadership Live Day and I have another amazing friend with me and I can't wait for you to meet her. She is fabulous. She is amazing. She does all the things and lives such a beautiful big life. Ladies and gentlemen, the Reverend Dana Rice.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Renita, for that powerful intro. Oh my goodness, I'm feeling it.
I am so glad. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous.
Wonderful. Well, you've always been a fabulous light in my life since the moment we had the opportunity to meet, and we'll talk about that more later. What I want you to do is tell the people about you and all the fabulous things you do. And I'm gonna step away. I'll be back. Just let me know when you're done.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. As she said, I am Dana Rice. I am the owner of Fame Studio based in Atlanta, Georgia, where I am inspiring young stars to dream big dreams. And I utilize the arts to empower them to achieve those big dreams. I love to sing, write songs, everything that's arts. That's me. I'm 100% creative. I'm also a wife and a mother of 2 young stars. I've written two, 3, 4, can't even count them anymore, books. And those books are a celebration of the wisdom of Black grandmothers. And that's me in a nutshell, y'all. I think a lot of things will unfold in my conversation here with Dr. Renita today.
I know they will. I know they will. Dana, I have been so blessed by our not so happenstance meeting. I had the pleasure of writing a curriculum last school year for my daughter who bamboozled me into homeschooling her. It was all her idea. And part of the reason why I really went for it, one was because she was miserable and she really wanted to have a different style of student schooling, but also because I ran into this show while she was studying in California. And I kept seeing it on Twitter. I talked with this about a guest previously this season because he had a lot to do with it. Why? Because he created it. But it was a show called Swagger. And I ran into it because editors had put all this stuff up on Twitter. And I'm not even a big Twitter person, but I happened to be on Twitter for another show called All American because it was a lot of people talking about a lot of things. And I felt like I found community there. And because I love that show, and I don't get attached to shows a lot, but when I do, honey, I am all in. I am all in, and I have the thoughts, and not everybody in my house wants to talk about it. But I saw these edits, and I saw a familiar face, Quavision Wallace, and I was like, wow, she's grown up. She's doing amazing things. And these clips, I'm like, oh, it seems like an all right show. And it said, oh, that seems like a good show. And then one Maze, as the Swagger crew calls it, came across my feed, and there was a longer clip, and I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to watch this show. And I watched Maze 206 and was like, oh, hold up, I need to know how we got here. And I went back that night and binged the entire first season. And in that show was this amazing character named Jackie, who was played by the beautiful Jordan Rice, who happens to be the daughter of Dana Rice. And as I wrote the curriculum, my daughter studied the show for an entire year. And we went through seasons 1 and 2. And she actually has done some more work with the show this year. She's doing some creative pieces on her own with the storylines and the thoughts and the characters that are existing in that show's what I call the Swaggerverse. And part of what I wanted to do was help her connect and see how these people go beyond just this moment and what else they're doing. And we follow the characters of real life people on social media. And I found out that Jordan was in Jaja's African braiding, and it was going to be in driving distance of us. So I said, our first field trip of the school year was going to be to go to DC and to see her in this show. And I reached out to her and I was like, we studied the show, and I knew that they had some clue that there was a lady who had written a curriculum. I found out on a Twitter space. And I reached out and I was like, look, we're coming. We would love just to stage door with you. My daughter, has studied your character. And Jordan reached back out to me. She was like, oh, wonderful. Yes. And so she was like, yes, just let me know when you're coming. And she was very gung-ho about meeting my daughter and meeting me. And we went to a preview, and it just so happened that her parents were there. And we got to have an amazing conversation afterwards. And we immediately connected and decided in that moment we were going to stay connected. Yeah. And that connection has been a blessing. Who knows? So I'll say this to everyone out there before we really launch in. You never know who your people are if you don't go out and meet new people. Take the risk on the hello. Take the risk on the conversation. And believe that sometimes the person you go to meet or you go to connect to may be only one portion of what the blessing was meant for that moment. So I am so grateful that you opened yourself to me and to my daughter, because you spoke with her as well. And that you actually initiated, girl, give me your number. Let's talk. And you just didn't think I was some crazy mama with a little young actress. So thank you. I don't know about you, but I love people. People are some of my favorite folks. But sometimes people get on my very last nerve. And that's why the reminder that people be peopling it's available for you in t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts. Go to www.drrenitaweb.com. Click use your words up in the right hand corner and get yours today.
Oh, thank you. And it is a beautiful way that we met. And just listening to you tell it, it reminds me that my husband and I almost didn't go that particular day for the show. We originally had a different date, and some things changed, and we said, well, we're going to go at this time. And I mean, look what happened. So I am so glad for the moment. I remember years ago when my children were just babies, I met a lady who was older, and she said, you're going to get a lot of friends in your life through your children. And of course, I had no idea what she was talking about. And but fast forward, this is one of those moments that we've come in contact because our daughters are loving the same kind of things. So one thing that really stood out to me that night that we met was your commitment to what your daughter is doing, that commitment to drive, to go the distance. And so many times I meet, because my work and because of what my daughter does, I meet other parents who are like, how do I get my kid involved in this? And they have no idea the level of commitment that is required. And, that was my first encounter with you. Like, this lady just drove on the possibility of seeing somebody that she saw on a show, so this is great. So I love that. And I was like, I want to be connected with a person like that who understands and is willing to do the work that is necessary for this type of thing to happen.
Yes. And yeah, we've talked about this, of course, but the commitment, it's one thing to want to do this yourself. It's another thing to hone and harbor and encourage and help make pathways for another person who may or may not even have a clue on how they want to get there. But like you talked about, you inspire people to dream big dreams, or young people in particular. And to have a young person dreaming a big dream, the easiest way to kill it, and I love how this works. So you're talking about what happens to a dream deferred. That was Harlem was a poem that my daughter decided to learn after looking at Maze 205. But on the show, the character Phil Marksby, he does Mother to Son, and he's it's a Langston Hughes poem. So I gave her some options of poems to memorize, and she chose Harlem. But the idea of what happens to a dream deferred, what happens to these kids or these youth or even adults when their dreams, they have these amazing big dreams and they become deferred. And the poem asks, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? What happens to it? Does it go away? And so for you to be a person inspiring people to dream big dreams, how do you use the arts to not only inspire, but also create pathways to make these dreams potentially become a reality?
That's a great question. The arts are the thing that they're born within us. The voice is your first instrument. Everybody has it. Even people who can't verbally speak, there's sound in the silence. So it's not, we don't have to come in this world and take on something that's outside of ourselves. It's already in us. And so with the arts, it allows us to reach inside and find out what's there. And so that's how I utilize the arts. People come to me thinking they want voice lessons, vocal coaching. They come thinking they want piano lessons. And that's a good entry point, but we don't know if that's what we need until we get in there. And so it's a looking into, and those entry points, whether you're coming to a musical instrument or the vocal instrument, their entry points to find out what else is there, because there's always something else there. There might be a writer in there. There might be a scientist in there. I just got a message from a former parent today. Their daughter is graduating from college with a degree in biomedical science. She's an amazing pianist. And I thankfully had a part of her journey. But as I was reading her, info about her graduation, I was remembering my own graduation with a degree in chemistry. But as a musician and a 100% creative. So it's like, what I found in my work is that the people that I encounter, we all have something in common. That's not necessarily what we see on the surface. We're coming for music, we're coming for the arts, but there's something else in our life that parallels. And that's why we are here together, because I can see into that and kind of know, all right, I don't know everything they need, but what I do know is that they need to be seen for who they are. And so I hope I'm answering this question, but because this is a really great question.
Oh, you are. So you brought up so many great things. See, and this is why. So if you all don't have it, I would advise you to get yourself something to write on, something to write with. And yes, this is one of those pens with a bunch of different colors.
Oh, I used to love those. If you had that kind of pen when I was growing up, you was somebody, okay?
Hello. There's a comedian. I think her name is Gigi LaFleur. She does all these like shorts on the Clock app, where she talks about things that made people it girls in the 80s and 90s. This was it right here. Yes. I have a kid who discovered one somewhere. She saw it somewhere. She was like, I want one of those. Okay, I bought a pack of 10.
Yeah.
But so make sure you have something to write on right with. So I was writing things down, and I love that you talk about the arts being an entry point. It's an entry point to so many different things. And I think about today in schools, in our community, and how the arts are disappearing, how they aren't as supported as they used to be, because people are finding or thinking they have all of these other needs that are more important than the arts. And I think about how many friendships, how many connections, how many thought patterns, how many ideas, how many ways I was able to create, because my mother made sure one of the first things I did as a child was to become connected to the arts. And I think that people think about the arts, oh, you have to be, a fine artist, you're painting, or you're doing arts. Photography is the arts. You're a singer, or you play an instrument, you're a dancer, or you're a gymnast. Come on, gymnast, you're an artist. That's the only way that the arts can show up, and you have to go do them in these specific places. But let's think about all these people who grew up in churches. Baby doll, if you grew up in a church, whether it was a clap and stomp musicianship, or if it had all these drums and the keyboards and the pianos and the organs, you were indoctrinated into the arts. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have the arts aren't these foreign objects or these foreign ideas that only exist in certain places. The arts are everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, I think about driving in like the DMV area. If you don't know what DMV is, the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. Let me stop speaking in codes. The DMV area. But if you think about the way, especially when you get up near Tyson's Corner and things like that, the way the roads make like this 4-leaf clover and all, that is the arts. Did you all know that architecture is the arts? The way that cities are mapped, this is the arts. Like it includes mathematics, but it's the arts. And thinking about the arts as an entry point to finding your way to other ways. When you're getting these people in there with you, what are your first conversations like when you get a new student or a new family?
So when I first meet a family, they're presenting, they want to know about music education, how can they get some lessons? Then I have a whole lot of questions. the first time. They're usually nervous because they think I'm going to be asking them questions they don't know the answers to. But I'm like, the answers, like, what do you like to do? And why do you want to do this? That's the question that generally gets everybody. Because the child is usually looking at their parent because they want to get the answer right. They didn't know somebody was going to ask their opinion about this. And I have to say, oh, it's okay. Go ahead and tell me. I say, whose idea is this? Is it your idea? Or is it your mom's idea, your dad, somebody else? They want you to do it. And they might hesitate, because a lot of times, if you're 5, it's not your idea, unless you're that kid, like I had that kid, she was 4 talking about, when are you going to get me some dance lessons, But not every kid is doing that, right? As parents, we often have to just try some things to see what they might like.
Right.
And so I just try to make them comfortable and let them know it's okay if you tell me that this isn't your idea. But I do need to know that, because that kind of guides me on what I should do. And when we go from there, it's like now the student and the parent knows that this is a collaborative effort. I have a job, you have a job, your child has a job.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have to do our job, and we can't do the other person's job. If we do that, then now we got a problem. So I'm not going to be the parent, but I am a parent, and I kind of know what parents should do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, you're not doing, I might say something to you about it. I am the teacher. I'm the professional that you're asking to come in to do, because you believe that I know what I'm doing. So don't forget that. I do know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I believe that you as the parent know what you're doing. So I'm not going to come over your house and start parenting. And then your child is the one with all the gifts. So we have to listen to the child, because they have the gift, and we're just there to guide the gift. Now, if the child won't use the gift, Houston, we have a problem. So everybody has to be working together to make it happen. So that's how I deal with the entry point. And really, it's a constant evolving thing. You might get 6 months in or 6 lessons in and say, we thought we wanted to sing, but we really didn't know that there's a thing called the piano. Oh my gosh, So you got to be willing to go where it leads you.
Mm-hmm. With you saying that, it reminds me of like when you walk into maybe the mall. And I know a lot of people, some people have never been to a mall. Come on, 2025. But a mall or a shopping center or even like a grocery store, and you're walking in with a specific destination in mind. I think about the other day, I was going to the grocery store to get steel cut oats. That's what I went to get. But then the grocery store had 42 aisles. And on my journey to the steel cut oats with the cereals and the breakfast items, I walked the produce section. Well, hot diggity schnick, you know what? Yes, I would like a sweet potato.
Yeah, give me that.
Lemons are great in my water. Give me some lemons. Oh, I'm trying to eat healthier. Let me get those mixed greens. And while I'm here, I'm going to pick an avocado because I'm going to treat myself to a healthy fat. And so I walked through the produce section, and I was still on my way to the steel cut oats. And I walked through the condiment aisle. And you know what? We do need some seasonings. So I picked up a few seasonings, and I got some barbecue sauce because my husband likes to cook with barbecue sauce. Apparently all meats can go in barbecue sauce. And so I walked through there, and then I walked past the pasta aisle. You know what? Pasta's really easy to cook. So honey, by the time I left the grocery store, I realized the only thing I didn't get was steel cut oats. Like, got all the way home. And I went to the grocery store for one thing. Or like you had one job. I went to this grocery store for one thing. And I didn't get that. Because once I entered the grocery store, my eyes were opened to all these other things that were available. And so hearing you talk made me think about that. I entered the voice lesson, and I realized, oh, there's a piano. Oh, there's a guitar. Oh, you can write. Oh, you can record, but you would have never known about any of that if you didn't enter the space.
Hello, I am Dr. Renita L. Webb.
We're ready to not only be poured into, but to also pour out today. Yeah. Do our best, our very best, to be on time. Hello, somebody say on time.
I had a moment where you had something that was given to you that you thought was your gift, and you found out it was for everybody.
And I remember Sister Vanessa went with her friends to Baltimore to see the wretch. At that time, I didn't know what the wretch was. I didn't know what wretch meant, but I knew she shouldn't have been there.
To learn how to have those feelings and to crank up those emotions within you to say, oh, that really wasn't right.
I sit better in my car than I do in my shower, but that means I only sit better in my car when it's just me in the car. Unless my jam comes on, then I don't care who's in the car. We're going to take my freedom.
As we're thinking about our personal growth, we're thinking about professional growth. Sometimes we say, well, that's not really what I wanted. That's not really what I wanted to do. So I'm not going to enter. I'm not going to go try that. I'm not going to go walk into that because I really just wanted to do the thing I want to do. But if you walk into the opportunity, you just never know what else could be there. All of these doctors and lawyers and physicists and, all these people and all these other amazing big high lofty careers that we think about that are so untouchable, a lot of them entered those careers by entering a theater. They got confidence to be able to be amazing on that interview because they learned the lines and they did the play. And so thinking about, the amazing way that, because I've been, I've had the opportunity to literally see Dana in action with a kid and, just hearing the way you talk to your students and understanding that, back in May, you had a whole big concert that allowed these students to perform on stage, or the fact that I can go to Apple Music and find your students. They walked in thinking they were coming for a voice lesson. They didn't know the door was being open to all of these other amazing things. So when you're growing your students, how do you take them from entry to maybe their next level of whatever through the vehicle of the arts?
I cannot overstate this part about listening to the student, hearing them. When I first started teaching, like 1,000 years ago, literally, y'all, I started teaching when I was like 12, but no, like 12 for real. But when I first started teaching, I was, okay, I have my goal. We're going to learn how to play XYZ song today, right? And that's all I'm focusing on. But people aren't like that, We have a story to tell, oh, I just had a situation on the playground with my friend, or I went to this big event yesterday and, oh, we got ice cream and, oh, these things are important. And so that has to be incorporated into the time, which is the beauty of having a studio. Like if you're in a classroom setting, you can't do that. But, when you have a one-on-one situation, you can do these things and you should. So it's hearing what they talk about. So if you're telling me about your basketball game, that's information I need to know. Because now maybe I'm going to introduce you to how music is used in the NBA. Or now I'm going to introduce you to how did you know this famous player plays the same instrument that you do? Or they took some lessons, and to create these connections. And so that's how we get to, oh, what else can I do? When I was growing up, it's like there was just a couple of careers that you could do. You could be a teacher, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor. And that was like, you didn't know there was something called a graphic designer. You didn't know there was something called, whatever else all the other jobs are. But you knew those three things until you met somebody else who was doing something else.
Right.
And so a lot of this is finding out what else is available. But a key thing is to knowing what might be interesting to your student. Listen, they're going to tell you. They're not going to say, hey, teacher, this is what's interesting to me. Mom, this is interesting to me. No, but they're going to be talking about this, whatever the thing is. And that's for us to hear it and hone in to that.
Absolutely.
So, and I think it's really cool that I'm a musician and my biggest tool is my ear. Listen. It's what I hear. What do you hear when you're with people? We're telling each other all the time what we need, but we're not always listening.